You know, if they carry on messing up this Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise timeline, we could have a Leatherface multiverse on our hands. Yeah. What is up, everyone? Movie Way, back again with another review, and this is going to be for the 2022 film Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and this is directed by David Blue Garcia and stars Sarah Yarkin, Elsie Fisher, and Mark Burnham as Leatherface himself. This is set 50 years after the original and tells the story of a group of teens who encounter Leatherface in what can only be described as a ghost town in the middle of Texas. And then chaos ensues. Now, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre for me is the greatest horror movie of all time. So when I heard they were doing a direct sequel, my hopes were high. I mean, I can't help myself when these new slashers get announced, especially from franchises that I love, whether it's Halloween, Child's Play, or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. However, I also tried to manage my expectations, especially when I heard it was coming to Netflix. I lost a little bit of hope there that it wasn't getting a cinema release, and Texas Chainsaw wasn't exactly a good horror movie. In fact, I thought it was quite bad. Leatherface was okay, but the whole franchise timeline is in a bit of a mess anyway, so just forgetting all of that and going straight to a direct sequel kind of works. You know, I think that was the one that would make sense the most. So was this a good addition to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, or another catastrophe? Let's find out. Now, the story is kept very simple. I mean, what else do you expect from these type of films? But I really got set straight away in the mood for this film, because we see a TV set in a convenience store and someone is just watching this TV set and it says 50 years on, this guy still hasn't been found, referring to Leatherface and going through all the crimes of the original film and stuff. And it says Sally Hardesty is the lone survivor, she's still alive and well. And it was kind of saying to me as a fan, don't worry guys, we got a good film for you here, we've got you in mind. Now, even though this is a very linear movie, there was a few nice surprises thrown in here. One of them actually being the cinematography. I think for about half the movie it works, but when it works, it's very, very noticeable. For example, there is a scene in a cornfield, and I thought it was beautifully shot. The sun glaring down on this horrific thing that is happening, little teasing shots of Leatherface, the camera just pointed in the right direction at the right times, and it was like it was saying, hey, horror can be beautiful to look at too. There were some great visuals involving Leatherface here too. I mean, whether characters are hiding from him or he's chasing them down the street, I love how close and up in his face the camera got. You can almost feel his breath coming over your shoulder there at times, and they really did make him quite terrifying in this movie. But it was mostly down to the filmmaking. Now, I really do think that David Blue Garcia had this slasher on his hands, but said, you know what, I'm just going to try and do this to my best ability. And he tried to squeeze every ounce of potential that he could out of that camera with what he had to work with. And I really respect that. Speaking of Leatherface though, the chaos that he causes here is definitely some of the best things about this film. It is absolutely violent as hell. I mean, when I said there was some surprising things for this film, I meant in this department as well. I know you're probably meant to expect that from a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, even though the original hardly has any, believe it or not. But my god, this film goes for the jugular and then some. Now, honestly, so many fucking people die in this movie in so many creative ways. But what makes the kills more creative, I feel, is the brutality of them. It has everything going for it for gorehounds. There are sledgehammers to the head, but not just one or two times. You know, when the head is mashed in, he's still going for it. Even I was like, okay, that's enough. There are people cut to bits, cut in half, stabbed. You name it, it's here. And this is by far one of the most violentest films I have seen in a very long time. Also, those final few seconds, holy shit. I just didn't see that coming in a million years. There's also a scene on a bus. You may have seen snippets of this from the trailer. I don't want to get too much into it for spoiler territory and stuff, but it is probably the best part of the entire film. But I just want to say, as a side note, how many great bus scenes we've had lately in Nobody, Shang-Chi, and now Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Weird. Now, I do have a few mixed feelings on this. There are quite a few positives and negatives to each one, so I have to put them as a mixed feelings. But one of them involves Leatherface once again. Now, he is awesome in this movie, he really is. For this movie, he totally works because he's just going on this rampage. He absolutely loses it, and any horror slasher icon would be proud of the mayhem he causes here. And I was all for it. However, on the other hand, this is a sequel to the original film, and he does feel a little bit detached from that Leatherface, because in that original, he's kind of stupid at times. He doesn't really know what's going on. He looks confused a lot. He's bullied by the family. But here, he's an absolute master of murder, and he's so cunning. He knows exactly what he's doing. It's like he plans everything out, and he just felt a little bit detached from the character of that original film. In fact, it felt like a totally different character in the same costume, if you like. Another mixed bag for me is the characters. Now, I know in most slasher films you're not meant to like the characters, and here that is exactly what I felt, especially the two main girls, one of them more than the other. But I just couldn't get on board with them whatsoever. And Sally Hardesty, played by Olwen Fore, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, it was a very awkward performance. I don't think she done a good character portrayal whatsoever. There were some moments where I was just like, oh, that's not the greatest acting in the world. But why this is a mixed bag is because it makes you actually root for Leatherface, and you enjoy seeing these characters get killed because they are just so annoying. I mean, there was a few okay sad ones, but I'm not sure if this was intended, because it does actually poke fun at cancel culture. It's like saying, look at these cancel culture characters, don't worry, we're going to kill them. However, I'm not sure David Blue Garcia actually meant that, because that is a very risky move for directors, especially when people are just new to the slasher franchise or pop in and out of it. They're going to pick out that the characters are terrible and spread bad word about your film. So it's a risky move from the director. Whether he meant it or not, I don't know. But I'm going to go here and say that he did, because it actually really does work if you look at it in that way. Like I said, I don't really care about most slasher characters anyway, unless it's fucking Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. All those characters are fucking awesome. But even the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, most of the characters in that film suck. But it's still a great movie. One thing I did not like, though, about this film was the whole look of the town that most of the film is set in. Like, that's why I said half the cinematography is good, but here, it sticks out like a sore thumb. The buildings look way too much like a movie set for me. They're almost plastic looking at times. Kind of just looks too clean to be in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. That might be me being nitpicky, but it did really throw me off at times, unfortunately. There also is some really annoying horror traits in here as well. The old saw leg falling down, slowing you down is in there. Why do horror films do this? It's way more scarier if you're running a full pelt and Leatherface is still behind you. When you've got a saw leg and he slows down, it just makes it a little bit less believable. However, guys, I did have a lot of fun with this. It's not a masterpiece. It's not the next Oscar winner, and it knows it. But it's definitely catered to slasher fans and fans of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise in general. Even though it excludes all them films, it still has them fans in mind. And I can see a lot of people enjoying this. I can see newcomers enjoying it, but I can see a lot of people absolutely hating this as well. It all depends on what you like in your movies, I suppose. I'm just going to go ahead and rate this movie now. I'm going to give Texas Chainsaw Massacre a 7 out of 10. Way better than I thought it was going to be. And if Netflix want to start grabbing these movies, if cinemas don't want to release them, then I'm all for it. At least us horror lovers are getting these films one way or the other. Okay, at the end of these reviews, I always like to leave a little fun fact. Now, a fun fact for Texas Chainsaw Massacre is that brothers Ryan and Andy Tohill, who are set to direct this movie, shot 1 week of footage and then scrapped the project. And that's when David Blue Garcia picked it up and totally reshot everything and made it from scratch. Okay guys, hope you all enjoyed this review. Please consider subscribing to this channel. I've got a lot more reviews coming, lots more videos, lots more horror content, and if you want to comment about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Leave it down below and I'll reply to every single one of you, I promise. Take it all easy, guys. I'll see you all in the next video.